Same old joke since 1962. It doesn't military to step down.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
I wanna go home.
These are 10 episodes that show the worst things Stewie Griffin has done.
You think you know Peter Griffin? Today we're diving into Peter's most shocking, messed up moment.
10 episodes where Peter Griffin was a psycho.
These are 3 more of SpongeBob's scariest episodes.
So recently, a really big South Park YouTuber named Blooms made a video talking about another South Park YouTuber named Carrick Artman, where he accused Carrick Artman of using AI and being a huge YouTube content farm. And a few months ago, I made a video on those white thumbnail YouTube content farms, and after seeing Blooms' video, I was like, man, these content farms have really started spreading and becoming better at like disguising themselves as content farms. Like honestly, most people that are just like frequenting YouTube probably wouldn't even think about the fact that this guy, Carrick Artman, is using all these like AI tools or possibly having a bunch of people working for him and it being like a huge content like empire or whatever. So I was like, I might as well make a second video talking about it, and in this one we'll go a little bit deeper than just making fun of these channels for being stupid. I'm actually talking about a variety of different things and techniques that these channels use to manipulate you. We're going to talk about the editing, we're going to talk about the slop content itself, we're going to talk about why the channels get popular, and then talking about some of the worst and biggest offenders of this content on YouTube. So with that being said, before the video starts, I would just love it if you subscribe to the channel. Subscribing helps me. I would love to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I don't think it's possible at this point, but if we got there, that would be absolutely great. So with that being said, let's get right into the actual video. These channels use a lot of different methods to manipulate you into believing a variety of things about them. One of the most common lies that they tell you is about how big their operation truly is. A lot of these channels portray themselves as like a one-man team who does all the editing, writing, scripting, and everything else that comes with being a YouTuber. But the majority of these channels, if they're not using AI, most of them have a big team of editors, writers, thumbnail makers, and just a lot of people working to help these channels grow. The thing that made me most suspicious of these channels was the fact that they're uploading 3 30 to 20 minute videos a week. And even if you're trying to be generous and say this is a 3-person team, I still just don't believe that that's possible. Like, that's a lot of content to be recording over the course of like a few days. Even if we're like being generous, like I said, 3 people working on the channel, 1 editor, 1 writer, and 1 person doing the voice acting, I just don't believe that 3 30-minute videos a week is possible with just 3 people. And it's like really weird to me that these people choose to keep their editing staff under wraps and they don't want to say anything about it. For example, Carrick Artman didn't even disclose he had an editing staff and like people working on his videos until after Blooms exposed him for having an editing staff and people working on his videos, which kind of begs the question, why would you keep your editing staff under wraps? In the video, Carrick literally calls his editor his friend. So if you're friends with this guy, wouldn't you want to at least, I don't know, give him credit for editing your videos so that he can get more exposure and get more editing gigs so he can have more money in his pocket? Like, I feel like that's just like really weird. It's almost as if these channels know that if they told everybody that, hey, my channel started with 0 subscribers, a fresh channel, out of nowhere, I decided to pay a bunch of people to start working on these videos from the very beginning, an entire staff of 6+ people, that they would start getting weirdly suspicious and be like, wow, that's really weird that this guy out of nowhere starts a YouTube channel and starts paying 6 people to work on his videos. It would almost give like, I don't know, a somewhat corporate feeling around your channel, almost as if like you're a company trying to make as much money off of YouTube as possible. It's almost as if these channels know that people just wouldn't be interested in watching them if people knew how weirdly corporate they were behind the scenes. But manipulation is really only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these channels. There's still a lot more to talk about, so let's dive a little bit deeper. The content that these channels make is, in all honesty, no different than those Family Guy or American Dad channels that just post clips from the show. And that's my biggest issue with these channels. They are simply just recapping episodes of a show without giving any real input on what they're talking about. I don't think that channels that talk about shows or movies should just be a complete recap of something without adding any actual substance to what you're recapping. For example, Lydia Loves Timelines recaps parts of an episode in order to provide actual context to whatever she's talking about in her video. However, when you compare it to something like Sweaty Clam's just giving 100% of the context, and it's just basically a substitute for watching the episode itself. Just so that I can illustrate the difference, I'm gonna just like borrow a quick little part of Lydia Loves Timeline's video where she talks about the worst thing every South Park character has done, and compare it to a part of Sweaty Clam's video where he talks about the worst thing Peter Griffin has done, so I can better explain the difference in recapping styles that these two channels have.
So, Bebe is the mastermind behind the list, i.e. a ranking system where she rates the boys from being the cutest to being the fuggliest.
No way! Yes way, check it out!
But it turns out that she rigged it just so she could date Clive and score some free shoes, basically completely undermining the sacred list for her own gain.
Not Bebe. She's dating Clyde now. Nobody loves shoes more than her.
Stan and Wendy eventually found out about this and threatened to expose her, so Bebe held them at gunpoint on the school roof.
You've compromised everything! Our list's integrity! Did you see these shoes, Wendy? They're incredible!
And in their struggle over the gun, poor innocent Kenny ended up dead and Bebe was arrested.
Wait, I didn't do anything wrong!
These are 10 episodes where Peter Griffin deserved to go to jail. Starting at number 10 with an episode titled April in Quahog. We open the episode with Trisha Takanawa interviewing, and I quote, "the only white guy who knows math better than her, Stephen Hawking." They discuss a recently discovered black hole at the edge of the solar system before the scientist gives up his act, ditches the chair, and goes surfing. And we're off to the races.
The major difference between Lydia Loves Timeline's video and Sweaty Clam's video is that he provides like way too much context, which results in this just being a substitute for watching the episode that he's talking about. Whereas Lydia Loves Timelines gives enough context to explain what she's trying to talk about within her video without, leaving in too much that just completely substitutes watching the entire episode. Another really good example that shows the difference between recapping an episode and actually giving proper context to what you're talking about is Dead Meat. If you guys don't know who Dead Meat is, I don't know what to tell you. You're really missing out on some really great content. Lydia Does Timelines also makes really good content. You should really check both of them out. They're amazing. But Dead Meat does like a series on his channel called The Kill Count, where he counts up the kills from horror movies. And most of the time, in order to give the proper context to show the lead up and build up to a lot of these kills, Dead Meat does have to recap most of the movie. However, if you watch a Dead Meat video and then go watch the movie that he was talking about, you're getting two completely different experiences. You're still gonna get something out of watching the Dead Meat video, and you're also gonna get something out of watching the movie itself. But once again, when you compare it to one of these Slop channels, you're not really getting anything of value from watching the episode after watching one of these Slop channels completely recap and tell you everything, along with showing you the jokes from the episode. On top of that, Dead Meat also gives you fun facts about the production of the movie throughout his video. Whereas, once again, with these Slop channels, they're literally just recapping the episode. They don't give any fun facts, they don't actually lead to a point. They're just talking about the episode, giving you all of the context, taking away the jokes, cutting them out, and just putting them in the video to try and get a quick laugh off of you. These channels are literally no different than a Family Guy recap channel. Retention editing is a style that is used by a lot of these channels, and it was popularized by YouTubers like Mr. Beast. It's a more flashy style of editing that keeps people hooked onto the videos, and in a lot of cases, especially with these Slop channels, retention editing can sometimes prevent people from clicking off a video that they would have otherwise. On top of that, this style of video can also make a channel seem like it has higher quality than it actually does. Prior to doing research for this video, I never really thought that editing could completely carry a channel or just make it so that people would ignore the blatant slop and AI usage throughout a channel just because the editing's high quality. But man, these channels completely are able to hide the fact that their content isn't really that good by substituting any meaningful commentary or actual good points by just having a bunch of flashy editing. Finally, one of my biggest issues with these channels is just the terrible, awful thumbnail style that they use. I know a lot of other people use this like white background style of thumbnail, and not everybody that uses this style is a content farm. It's more like a combination of all the other things that we talked about plus the thumbnails. There's a lot of people that know how to make this thumbnail style actually look really good and not completely lazy. However, these channels are completely just taking a picture of any character they're talking about, adding text, and then that's it. They're not actually putting any effort into making the white thumbnail background work. There's a lot of channels that do. Just looking at these channels, you can tell that they're not putting any actual effort into their white background thumbnails. Once again, like I said, they're just taking a character and adding text. That takes like 2 seconds. The thumbnail that I used for this video, that was the easiest thumbnail I think I've ever made in my life. I literally just went to Google, looked up a picture of their channels, took it, got rid of the background, put it into Photoshop, and added text. Like, that was the easiest thumbnail making process of my entire life. Like everything else these channels do, the thumbnails are lazy, just like the content, just like the editing, and just like everything else we've talked about so far. So like, as I was making this video, Blooms actually addressed most of the AI stuff in his response video to Sarah Gartman, because when I first started this video, that video wasn't out. During the editing process, it came out. So if you want to know more about like the deeper inner workings of like those AI YouTube channels, you should check that video out. It'll be linked in the description down below, along with the Lydia Loves Timelines video and the original Blooms video. So if you want to know more about how this entire operation works, please check the description. So before we get to like the conclusion of the video and where I give my final thoughts and everything, I just kind of wanted to talk about like the 3 biggest YouTubers that I've seen doing this style of content real quick. So first we're going to start with like Sweaty Clam. I think I've referenced him quite a few times in this video, so you've definitely seen some of his clips throughout this video, but I think he's definitely either the originator or he was copying another guy who we'll talk about in a little bit, but I'm pretty sure the majority of the people that are doing this style of content are copying, cloning him, because he's the biggest to be doing it, I think. He definitely was like one of the biggest and probably one of the first. I'm not sure he uses AI. I think he might just be hiring people. But once again, if you want to know like the full extent of that, go watch Blooms' video. I'm assuming that they all are doing the same thing where they're hiring people to write the video scripts and edit them. I don't know though. There's not enough proof, and they don't have any other links outside of the YouTube channel. But just based on how much they pump out content and how little effort they really put into anything they're doing, along with just completely recapping episodes of shows and being substitutes, they are obviously doing this for money, and they're obviously a content farm. So yeah, do with that information as you will. The next channel that I wanted to quickly address was Cartoon Seth. He's another one that's been doing it for a really long time. If it wasn't him that started it, it was definitely Sweaty Clam, or vice versa. They've both been doing it for about the same amount of time. So I'm pretty sure, once again, he's one of the people that everybody else is copying. I'm also pretty sure that his voice actor is definitely AI. Just the way that they pronunciate things is just like throwing me off, and I really think that they're AI. I don't know. I definitely believe that more so when compared to like Sweaty Clam, their scripts might actually be AI. I didn't have the time to really go through and put them in an AI detector because, you know, this video was already taking like long enough as is, and I was like, I'm not going to type out every single instance that they've said certain words and stuff and try and put in an AI detector. That's a lot of time that would just be wasted, and then if it's non-conclusive, then that would just be a waste of time. But yeah, he's been doing this for the longest, or at least as long as Sweaty Clam. And he's also a content farm. He's trying to make as much money as possible. That's obvious by how much he uploads and how lazy the content is. And then finally, our last big offender for this video is Sarah Gartman. We talked about him a lot in this video. You know, Blooms made 2 long videos on him, which once again, you should definitely go watch. He's like different than these two because his content's like kind of better, and it's a lot more disguised and discreet as far as like the AI usage when compared to these two. The thumbnail format's different, but to the same degree, he's also a content farm trying to make as much money as possible. So once again, you know, he's another one of these people that are trying to capitalize off of lazy editing and just repetitive content. So those are the big 3 I wanted to talk about today. These are probably the originators, and a lot of people are copying off of them and trying to follow in their footsteps. My advice to people that are trying to copy what they're doing, don't. If you want to actually grow a YouTube channel and be original and have people enjoy your content for who you are, and not just, you know, getting a bunch of people that don't really care about who you are as a person and only really care about the slop that you push out, then try and do something on your own and be original. Please don't try and copy these guys. Their content's not even that good anyways. If you're going to copy anybody, at least try and copy somebody good and original. YouTube as a platform was always made for people to share their opinions, lives, and stories. YouTube was made for people to have a voice and express themselves. But these people and corporations are ruining what I love most about YouTube: the individuality and freedom of expression that creators have to be yourself. These people are taking advantage of that by selling a lie, selling themselves as an individual when they aren't, lying about things being their genuine thoughts when they're actually either AI generated or made by a bunch of people on their payroll. And I like really dislike that, and it's really disheartening as a smaller YouTuber seeing these like big corporations, like groups of people trying their best to like exploit the system, making all this slop content that honestly is killing the content grind for a bunch of other small YouTubers like myself. So if you enjoy supporting small YouTubers, I hope you consider subscribing to this channel and subscribing to any other channel that's run by somebody that's an actual person that's trying to share their genuine thoughts about certain things. And you don't give these corporations and companies all of your time and attention, because if they see that there's no market for what they're doing, they will stop eventually. Because once it starts hitting their bottom line and hitting their money and their bank accounts, they won't want to make this type of content anymore. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.